In 2007, my fantasy baseball league awarded me with the prestigious Most Desserts Award. This was because I had tried every single dessert offered at the Paris Hotel and Casino's buffet. And by tried, I mean ate all of every single one. How did I achieve this? Well, like any hero's origin story, we must start many years ago. I've never been shy about my love for food or drink. If I was one of the ghosts in A Christmas Carol, I'd most definitely be the ghost of Christmas past. Give me a chalice, a giant piece of meat, and I'll happily put on a robe and scare the shit out of some greedy assholes. Food and drink are definitely a passion of mine, but when I do put it this way, people assume I'm a foodie or something equally exhausting to be around. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm a damn delight to be around. But I am not a foodie, and I am not one of these so-called Yelp elite. I'm not even someone who seeks out the finest restaurants. In fact, when it comes to places to eat, my grandpa used to say, if there's a line somewhere, I guarantee there's a place a few doors down that's just as good, cheaper, and no one's there. This has almost never been proven wrong. It's all just how you look at it. If you want the pomp and circumstance of a high-priced steakhouse or whatever, then nothing I'm going to say is going to matter at all. If you want to feel important, you want to walk into a restaurant with a tie and judge everyone around you and pretend like everything you eat isn't just going to be shit later, I totally get that. But if you want food that tastes good and gets the job done, then let me take you on a journey. Growing up, my family never had money, so we had to find ways to make everyday meals interesting, or at the very least, enjoy whatever the hell was put on our plate and shut up about it. This is how I came to really love Spam, or instant mashed potatoes, or any kind of cereal, or the Salisbury steak TV dinners, which were delicious, but they could never figure out how to make that brownie survive the microwave. The entire meal could make it through a nuclear fallout, but God forbid that brownie not come out harder than a Republican. I'll stop there. This kind of upbringing didn't prepare me for anything but survival. And for some reason, when you're poor in America, you assume the food you can afford is crap like Chef Boyardee and McDonald's, when really we could have just gotten eggs and apples, for God's sakes. Of course, today, an egg and an apple would cost you $300, but back in the 80s and 90s, they were essentially pennies. As I got older, getting healthier wasn't really something anyone in my house ever thought about. We just didn't care about it. Exercise was achieved through activities, but nothing beyond the normal day's events. We didn't go to gyms or count our steps or buy clothes that might cause one to assume we'd purposely be sweating in them. We just existed. And when it was time to eat or drink, we did what we wanted. This isn't to say my mom, who did struggle with her health, didn't try once in a while to lose pounds. She'd try something like Crystal Light or Jenny Craig, which, because those things taste like shit, never stuck at all. However, my siblings and I did learn that if you took Crystal Light packets and you added a little bit of sugar to them, they actually tasted like Kool-Aid. Oh yeah. I just wanted to say, oh yeah, like the Kool-Aid man. All right. Oh yeah. All right. Anyway, in my teens when I started skateboarding, eating really just became an annoyance to the day. And we looked for the bare minimum of sustenance because we could also only afford the bare minimum. I existed on a diet mainly of 25-cent sodas. 5 taquitos from Salazar's for $1.99. Or if you were lucky, you could scrounge together $2.13 and get 2 tacos and a chicken sandwich from Jack in the Box. I can feel your judgment. And I want you to know that I don't care because it gets worse. From about 18 years old to 20 years old, I worked at a skate shop that was next to a 7-Eleven. This meant not only did we get free super big gulps, we got free big bites. Some of you know exactly what a big bite is, and some of you grew up in big houses. A big bite was a 7-Eleven hot dog. You know, when you walk into a 7-Eleven or AM/PM, I don't know what side you're on, and see that weird case at the register that's cooking hot dogs. Yeah, buddy, that's where the big bites were. Sitting there all day just roasting away. Big old weenies for kids who didn't want to live. I can't recall how many I ate over the years, but let's just say sometimes, even to this day, when I'm feeling a little low, I drive to a 7-Eleven and I get one. A little ketchup, some diced onions, and a whole ton of regret. As Hyman Roth said in The Godfather 2, this is the life we've chosen. Now, I think it's important right now to stop the journey and point out that I have never once looked back and thought, ew, gross. Never. And I never fucking will. Big bites are delicious. Hell, Spam is the traditional food of Hawaii. And every once in a while, a can of ravioli from Chef Boyardee does a great job of cleaning out my system. I love all of it. It trained my body to not be snooty or want for anything out of my price range. It made me sturdy and broke me at the same time. It made me American. And this is where our hero's journey resumes. In 2007, my friends and I found ourselves staying at Circus Circus in Las Vegas for our annual fantasy baseball draft. We were in year 6 of our fantasy league and undoubtedly chose to stay at Circus Circus because this is where they shot Tupac. Also, we were all broke, and Circus Circus was in our non-existent price range. We had stayed in Vegas for this draft almost every year at the Sahara, but they were booked up, so we thought perhaps uncovering a clue in the murder of a 1990s hip-hop legend was in order. Also, Circus Circus had laser tag. We never ate at Circus Circus. In fact, I'm unsure they even had food there. And if they did, it might have just been actual circus fare, like popcorn and cotton candy and things like that. I honestly can't remember, but it definitely sounds real to me and anyone listening to this, so we can all just accept it as truth. And please know that I am certainly not above circus food. But when you're in Vegas, cotton candy isn't going to get the job done. So we went elsewhere. We were recommended by some friends to check out the buffet at the Paris Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. We'd certainly eaten at buffets before, but in the 2000s, most buffets just resembled cafeteria lines and nothing else. The Paris buffet, however, was magical. Or as the French would say, l'incompetent. It's a Home Alone joke for 3 people, and they're all not here tonight. That's unfortunate. The Paris buffet was themed so that every station would feel like you were walking from shop to shop in a small village in France. It had character and charm, and if you went before 5 p.m., you could get the dinner buffet for $17.50, as opposed to the $24.75 you'd have to pay starting at 5:01. As a chubby 28-year-old who looked like an already injured gym teacher, this might as well have been heaven. Every single space was filled with food. Main courses, appetizers, small bites, drinks, and of course an entire half village dedicated to desserts. Cakes, pies, cookies, and ice cream, and on and on. I can't be sure, but I am willing to bet a lot of money that when I walked in, I yelled out, "Bangarang!" Really? Nothing for that. I swear to God. I'm going to try that again. Bangarang! A lot of pieces of shit in this room. All right. Now, when it comes to our fantasy draft weekend, we designate certain times for certain events. Of course, there's the draft that happens during the second day of our trip, but the night before, we go somewhere for dinner, and we call this dinner the Rules Summit. It's when someone can bring up an idea to make a change to how our league operates. No matter how big or small, how serious or silly, this is the time to discuss it. But this year, something happened none of us really ever thought about. It was the first year a lot of us were just flat broke. We didn't have any money. I mean, we never really had any money before this, but we had parents who floated us, or we were in college, or whatever the case was. But this year, we all lived on our own. We were all in the job market, or worse, we had careers in the arts. And we just couldn't afford to do much. In fact, this $17.50 we just spent on dinner was the most expensive thing we'd done the entire trip. Some people didn't know how they were going to pay for things, and that's when, for the first time in our league, a trade was made using actual money. One guy, when discussing a trade with another guy, told him, "If you cover my room, I'll give you Albert Pujols." The entire table froze. The entire buffet came to a halt. The accordion stopped, and even the roaming mimes gasped. Paris had fallen. Now, if you didn't already assume this, in 2007, Albert Pujols wasn't just considered one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He was easily the best fantasy baseball asset of his generation. He could score your team more points by himself in one day than your entire opponent's team might score. He, in and of himself, was a fantasy. No one had ever thought you could use real money to trade fantasy players. But no one ever thought this because we all just assumed it wasn't an option. Now it was. The guy making the offer to give up future Hall of Famer Albert Pujols tried to accomplish this under the radar, but it was overheard and hell broke loose. "You can't do that," one guy yelled. "This can't be allowed," another person shouted. The shouts and yells continued pretty much over each other until we finally turned to our league commissioner for what we should do next. Now, for context, a commissioner in a fantasy sports league doesn't really mean anything other than you're the person who everyone else suckered into doing the legwork of setting up and continuing a league. Admin work that none of us wanted to or ever wants to do. It's a thankless job, and they don't have any real power, but since they do the hard part of the league, we give their opinion more weight than any of ours. But in this instance, our commissioner was just as dumbfounded as we were. This caused even more chaos. Opinions and thoughts were flying. People at other tables were scared. It was like one of those videos you'll see online of other countries' parliaments just losing their damn minds. Calm set in, and everyone was quiet. The guy who offered the deal spoke from the heart. He was broke. He couldn't afford his share of the room. And at the time, none of us could help him out financially, so we just sat there. This set a dangerous precedent. What if one of us becomes rich? Could happen. And then what? In the continued depressed silence, something felt eerily familiar to me. It was like when I was a kid watching a fight break out in my house between my older siblings and mom. As the youngest, my normal recourse was to be funny and use that to break the tension. However, in this group, the majority of us were comedians, so that wasn't going to work. So that's when I declared, "I'll be right back." I walked to the village of desserts. I grabbed 2 trays and filled each tray with every single dessert the fake city of Paris had to offer. I then returned to the table of sadness and said, "I'm going to eat all of this now." I'd love to say that no one believed me. I'd love to say that any of them tried to stop me. But we all knew in that moment the one thing that would bring us all together was watching me Augustus Gloop myself in real time. I sat and looked at everything laid out in front of me. There were cheesecakes, cookies, ice cream, pies, and all with silly French names that I couldn't pronounce. Or I just grew up poor, so these were normal names, and the fact that it didn't say Hungry Man Brownie on it confused me. I was honestly excited to dive in. I mean, who gives a shit anymore? Someone just tried to use real money in our league. Up was down, left was right. My stomach would heal us all. As I ate, the visible disgust quickly turned into laughs, which then started to flow. The disbelief began to wane. The joy we'd always had began to return. Of course, physically, I felt worse and worse, but it didn't matter because my heart felt better and better, figuratively. After a few minutes, we'd all decided to take a vote to allow or block this trade from happening. It seemed like it was the only fair thing to do. We voted to allow it. Soon after, a vote to get me to stop eating all the desserts was also cast. I was told to stop, and I most certainly did not. Some Americans just can't honor the results of an election. The next year at the draft, we decided to stay at the Venetian, which is right next to the Paris buffet. So, of course, we returned, but this time I only had 1 or 5 desserts. I mean, it's still a buffet, for God's sake. We also voted to never allow cash trades again. And later that night, I was gifted with an award for most desserts. This would begin a trend of numerous random awards for people in our league with names like Most Chill, or Least Chill, or Most Sober, which we called the Bin Soberest Award. If one person got that, bless you. I'm buying you a drink later if you're the person who got that. And of course, I got the Most Desserts Award, something I've yet to lose. Our fantasy baseball league is about to enter its 25th year. Same group of people, just a lot grayer with more back pain and bad knees. Everyone's married now, some of us for the second time. There are some kids, and oddly enough, some of us have become rich. But cash trades are still very illegal. And if someone is having issues financially, we all pitch in. I mean, our kids already have enough stuff, and fantasy baseball is way more important. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. No matter how much time has passed, we all tell tales of the time that my appetite saved everyone's lives. I'd love to say that my feelings toward food changed over the years, but they really haven't. I did start to eat healthier and in my late 30s lose significant weight, but that doesn't mean that I judge 7-Eleven hot dogs or 2 a.m. donuts from Albertsons or a fourth meal when I'm trying to live Moss. I did start to, thank you, Brent. I did start to eat the Taco Bell joke. I get it. Oh, we don't need a Taco Bell. Fuck all of you. You're about to go to Taco Bell later tonight. Get a fucking chalupa. Don't judge me. We did all start to eat at better restaurants, and I do love a good steak just as much as the next person. But when you grow up poor, eating like someone who's in year one of the zombie apocalypse, crap food is just part of your DNA, along with heart disease. Of course, I'm still paying for the mistakes of my 20s, physically and mentally. But was it worth it? I mean, no, not really, not at all, no. Was it fun? Yes, of course it was fun, and it's still fun. And if I do have to die someday, at least I'll know the culprit, the Paris Hotel and Casino. Thank you.